The Strategic Hotbox with Dr. Brandi Love Stankovic. Discussing leadership, business, and how to take control of your life and achieve greatness. From the streets of Las Vegas, energized, informed, and never diluted. It's time to kick some ass.
Welcome back to the Strategic Hotbox. It's your girl, Dr. Brandi Stankovic. And I have to, for those that are listening right now, when we get ready to run this episode, our producer will say things in our ears. And during this intro today, he went, yeah, really deep as it started. And I'm thinking, actually, that should be part of the intro. So we may have to do a bit of an edit, just saying. So welcome. In all seriousness, I'm here with Miss Kelly Hellickson, and we're going to talk about redefining success today. Let's get started. As you know, on the Strategic Hotbox, we've got the learn, the love, and the kick ass. And in the learn section today, we're going to talk about success and what does it mean to be successful? How do we redefine that? How do we continue to grow in the future? And in the love section, we'll have some time with Kelly Hellickson to talk about her journey and what recommendations she has. And then, of course, in kick ass, we'll leave you some strategies that you can start implementing today. So when it comes to redefining success, success is probably one of the most intangible components of leadership in the fact that it is this elusive goal that we go after. And all of us have this vision of success, whether or not we've been able to make it more tangible, where in saying, this is what I want to achieve, or if we just have this, I want to be better. And whenever I hear someone say, I want to get better at, like, what does better mean? And how can you create a benchmark for that? And when you achieve that, how do you create an additional benchmark beyond that? And we've talked a little bit about that with Liz Grantham, one of our previous guests, in the fact of if you achieve success or once you get to this pinnacle, now what? We don't want to have it be a fall downwards or a ride of just losing yourself after that. How do we continue to look forward in the future and what our next definition of success might be? Maya Angelou said, success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it. And I love that, and the fact that it's part of the journey as much as it is the ultimate goal. And I've recently been listening to an audiobook called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a I don't know if you've heard this book, but it's fantastic. It's a little grimy. It's a little, kind of edgy, but it also has some really amazing points in talking about how much challenges are a part of success and the sweetness of success and the beauty that you'll feel in success in the ultimate end game. And that is, you could finish a video game or get in some of the examples that he uses, you can finish a video game and feel good for a second, but having children and seeing your children grow is a lot harder, and the feel good afterwards is a lot more beautiful and a lot more rewarding. And so sometimes challenges are part of the success and help make the success taste even better in the end. And I think there's so often that I've finished a project at work, or maybe the people that are watching or listening today, you finish something and you feel like, aha, I've made it. There's been success. But have you really reached that place? And are you now done? So now you can just chill. You just happen to be that and you're just forever amazing. And is it time to retire? Obviously not. And you don't want to be the person that always references that one time in your life. I see this a lot, and maybe this is pushing the boundaries a little bit, but I hear people say, high school is going to be the best time of your life, man. High school is just the best time. And I think if you're saying high school is the best time of your life, you have not done anything else, because high school is just a piece of your journey, and it's about growing beyond that. College is the best time until you go to work, and then work is the best time, and then travel, and then kids. All of these things should be, the next level of best, and making sure that we're understanding how we continue to grow. And it is an evolution, and we want to continue to evolve as we go. So as we adjust our perspective on this elusive term of success, then we want to make sure a few things are true. And these are my kind of philosophies in that. First is to be as authentic as you possibly can. So as you continue to grow, be authentic in your approach in that. Don't adjust based on what you think other people want to do, or what the white picket fence says, or what society says, or society says the perfect mom should be, or society says the perfect leader should be. It's what you think is best for you and how you can be the best that you, and go after what you want to be, and what is realistic and exciting and builds passion in you. And the second is, don't forget that wealth isn't everything, that health and a full life can be so much more rewarding than just going after money goals. every single day. And finally, don't forget to be grateful that the more that we can, when we refocus to focus on things like love and choosing love and really what we want to be achieving in our lives and helping the other people around us grow and achieve as well, that humility and love are such an important part of success and of feeling good about the things that you have achieved and celebrating along the way. So now I'd like to formally introduce Miss Kelly here with me. You have lots of experience over many-year career in national sales and business development. You have led award-winning teams of very diverse different types of teams. You've served on award judges tables for the CUNA Diamond Award specifically. And you're also a member of Society for Healthcare Strategy and market development, and then also part of MAC, as well as ISHMAPER and WIPPERMIS. Did I say those right?
Good job.
Everybody's, so I have to say those are potentially the biggest tongue twisters ever. But
Fantastic.
Thank you to those societies for
those
you being a part of that, and then also for challenging me in my articulation today. So tell us a little bit about you and your journey.
So the journey, when I look back, I think started when I was really young. My mom was, because I don't think it's all about just professional. Like there are so many opportunities for leadership roles in your personal life. When I look back, my mom was just always that mom that, she would iron our clothes before school. She would curl our hair. She just was fantastic. And I think looking back, I always wanted to be a mom and try to not one up her, but provide my kids with that same motherly joy and expertise.
Sure. Right.
So when I look back, I think it started with having kids. Mm-hmm. I've got 3. And then, to be honest with you, professionally, I kind of got pushed into leadership and management, and I wasn't good at it in the beginning. I had to learn things. I had to kind of school myself, look to others and see what they were doing, how they were leading, and it's hard. I think it is a journey, and I think that humility does play a big role, and you just have to say, wow, I'm really not good at this. Are you sure you want me to manage the sales team? But then after you get the experience and you just kind of dive in, and if you're someone that can dive in full force, I always call myself like I'm going to give it 110%, whatever that means. So looking back, I think it's a lot of being kind of shoved into it and then owning it.
So there's a few lessons that you share there for those that are listening and watching. And one is giving people a chance, right? So if somebody hadn't have pushed you into that position, you wouldn't have the experience and growth and leadership that you've had. And so how can we make sure that we're doing that, for other people that are out there? And the second thing that you said is you saw your mom as, and sounds like the kind of the epitome or the ultimate mom. And then you create that standard of success in your head of what it means to be an ultimate mom.
For sure.
And how often do we do that as leaders of saying, I'm putting her success level in my head is what I need to be, and yet you're managing all of these other things as a businesswoman and 3 kids and all of these things too. And we do that. We take on the success of others and try to make it our own benchmark as well.
Yeah. No, benchmark's a good term because that's the one that's in my head, and I don't know where I became along the journey. I don't know where I became so competitive with myself, but I find myself just going, there's like 2 voices in my head. Okay, stop and smell the roses. You don't have time, so it's just like.
They sound like they don't get along very well.
They don't. But I think that you just have to keep pushing yourself, and if you want it bad enough and you, at the end of the day, just want to help people and better yourself, you just get after it.
So how has your definition of success evolved over the years then?
It's so elusive. Like, what is the definition of success, And doing some research before I came on Strategic Hot Box to talk about this, I asked friends and family, and the answers that I got were just all over the map. And then I started to kind of assess it on, the journey plane right here. From Middle Earth. It takes forever to get out here. Just saying. So it's kind of like, for me, there's 2 different success litmus tests, I guess. And business-wise, it is when you achieve a quota. You know, in sales, there's always a quota, or you achieve a plateau that you were striving towards, or you blow past it. But then once you're there, what do you do? Because I'm a carrot mover, right? So I'm going to keep moving that carrot. How are you going to, there's a ceiling. There has to be a ceiling at some point because you're only human. From a mom standpoint, man, I mean, we're parenting at two different ends of the spectrum right now. Our daughter's 14 and our sons are 8. So it's what's cool to them, not cool to her. So that's still kind of a work in progress.
Yeah. I think being a parent is a work in progress anyway.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not sure. I'll have to get back to you in a couple years on that answer.
I feel like when I think about ironing my kids' clothes, first, no, right? But then secondly, they would destroy them anyway. And I was also thinking in my head, where was my mom and my iron clothes? That didn't happen. But it's the amazingness of one person almost creates pressure on ourselves, right?
For sure.
But you also, in bringing up in this last piece, and the fact that sometimes the greatest pressure we have is our own competitiveness, our own pressure within. And so success then becomes this evolution as you continue to grow of success now with kids might be just making it through a grocery store trip without killing someone, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah, for real.
But success could also end up being having them become, the human that we know that they always were intended to be, or something to that effect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, success takes so many different forms when you're a parent. And I think that it's made me chill out a little bit on that voice inside my head. Maybe not a ton, but, and you brought up a good point, Brandi, about money's not everything, And so I think success and the definition of really is unique to the individual. And I think happiness plays a big part in that. So you can have all the money in the world and be super, super successful, but are you happy?
Absolutely. So do you feel like that people ever have this moment of realization of where they stop and go, okay, I made it. I'm here. I've gotten to success and we're good now?
I'm sure they do. I kind of feel like the Jerry Maguire moment happened to me last year about this time. And I was just like, okay, I'm really successful. I'm making a ton of money. I adore my clients, but ...
Right.
I'm unhappy. So I'm the only person that can change that. So I, changed it up, and taking that step back from a pay standpoint, it's about being happy and being true to yourself and doing what you want to do, not what somebody else is pushing you into doing.
Right. Absolutely. And that book of the subtle art of not, giving a whatski, was interesting. A story that they were talking about. I love Metallica, as you may know, and they were talking about Metallica and how they kicked out a member of their band who went on, of course, as they went on to create Megadeth. And if he hadn't have been kicked out, he wouldn't have created this other very high performing, top selling, metal band. And yet at the end of his career, his determination of success, the level that he had put in his mind, was to always outsell Metallica. And Megadeth just was never that band and still isn't that band. Metallica's continued to grow. And so does he feel like he's failed in a sense and yet has created one of the greatest, metal bands out there? And so it's amazing how when we put some of those positions that we can also make it where we aren't achieving, right? So to go easy on ourselves in the process.
Yeah. And I think that successful, driven people are naturally going to be competitive and their own worst enemies. I know I am. People will say, well, just calm down. But stop, look what all you have. And I have been doing that more so lately. And it's so rewarding to finally stop and not be on that treadmill and just, take a deep breath and look around and say, okay, well, maybe this is it, this is happiness. But I think that it's, on the other hand, kind of unfortunate, that he gets kicked out and creates this amazing rock band and still doesn't feel right. Because his litmus test was to outsell Metallica.
Right.
But everybody else looking in is like, wow,
Yeah.
You know, one door closes, a huge window opens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why it's really important for us to stop and to let the voice inside your head that says stop and smell the roses, you know, win from time to time, and to go easy on ourselves. On the flip side, the one thing that makes you special, makes you a high-performing leader, makes him amazing. Megadeth wouldn't be where it is if he didn't have that inner voice saying, not enough,
Exactly.
go. So we also don't want to get so relaxed into it that we're also not pushing ourselves to be the best that we can be.
Absolutely.
So it's a constant reevaluation then, in a sense. So how can leaders and people support one another in the journey to however they define success?
I think as a leader, you're looked to set forth an example. So I would say, like, I always want to set an example for my kids. And like I mentioned, our daughter Reese is 14. That's a really pivotal age in a young female's life. There's so much going on. There's so many hormones. There's, you know, nowadays the pressure for college is crazy. So I always bring it back to, if I'm in a situation at work, would I want Reese to be in the situation? What would I want her to do? What decision would I want her to make? And I want to lead her to, if she ever is in that position, make the right decision for her. You know, so I think it's a lot about leading by example, and maybe pushing a little bit, you know, push the envelope, because if you see something in someone that they don't see in themselves, push it a little bit, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that you said a couple things there. The first is that sometimes stepping outside of ourselves is really important, because we can get so wrapped up in all the voices in our heads, right?
Oh, yeah.
That stepping outside and say, what would I want my daughter to do in this moment, is a perfect way. So if those that are listening and watching have somebody in their lives that is important in that way, to say, if I step outside and say, what would I want my son, what would I want my employee to do in this moment? And then take your own advice that you'd give on to somebody else, or that you'd want for that other individual. The other side of that is advocating for each other. So we've talked about it before in other podcasts, but we can't be afraid to ask for support too when we need help, and to ask other people that are around us, and be able to push ourselves, to have others around to push us, and be able to do that for each kind of a give and take.
Yeah, and that's hard for me. I don't know if it's hard for you, Brandi, but I find myself last resort. I'm going to pick up the phone and call a lifeline. I'm not using that lifeline until I absolutely need to. So I think that pushing myself then hopefully makes me be a better leader, you know? And right at this point, the only people I'm interested in leading right now are my three Incredibles, my kids, you know? So then flipping that around, and when I'm making decisions, would this make Jake, Reese, Carter, would this make them proud?
Right.
You know? So
it's a good standard of success. And you asked if I, you know, asking, I bet a lot of people that are listening and watching can relate to that, and the fact that asking for help is really difficult. I'm sure the team will agree. I, however, have no problem delegating things to different people. However, the standard that I have, or where my challenge really is I always feel like I need to be top of my game in everything that I do. And I have a real tough time letting go of, I'm just going to be mediocre at this, and that's okay. That's my choice, allowing me to focus efforts in other places. And so that's, you know, so everybody has a different way of a different challenge or kind of balance in that.
Absolutely. And I get it. Like, I don't think I've ever woken up one day and said, I'm just going to be mediocre today, because I'm like, that is not happening.
Right.
You know, that is not going to go down for me. But then looking at other people, it's like, well, give yourself a break. So I think that is really, to your point, something you said earlier, take your own advice.
And so can you share a funny story with us?
Oh, boy. Okay. So the segment is about success, right? And what that means to different people, and that it means something different to everyone.
Sure.
So I went to a trade show a couple weeks ago in Seattle, and before I go for a trip, I always make sure that the day before it's like family day, you know, no phones, no outside influencers. What are we going to do? So we went to Dave & Buster's, and we get there, and I mean, what a racket. It was fun, but $350 later. And I'm like, okay, so you guys have these little cards that are like credit cards. I'm like, yeah, Mom, we'll be cool. We'll be fine. I'm like, well, how long is that going to last? I don't know. It lasted an hour and a half. And they didn't want us, mom and dad, to go play games with them. And I think finally Reese was kind of like, oh, that's kind of mean. You know? So she came back and was like, Mom, do you want to go play games? I'm like, I thought you'd never ask. So that was a success number one. And we played basketball. And then I saw this huge screen. It was Lara Croft Tomb Raider. Mm-hmm. And all of these little kids were covering her when she would go in like on a covert operation. So I kind of watched and I was like, that looks really fun. And I said to Reese, are you going to be embarrassed if I do this? And she's like, no, Mom, nobody here knows us. So I started to play a couple segments and I was at that game for a half hour. And my daughter did not tell me that she was embarrassed. Like she was there cheering me on. Aww. So for me, that I achieved it.
Yeah. So not only are you Lara Croft, but you're also not embarrassing Mom Lara Croft.
Actually, I was covering Lara Croft. She was doing her own thing, and I was eliminating bad guys.
I feel like that you should add that to the resume, honestly.
I should, yeah. I should.
So tell us, share a bold action item for the people that are listening. The takeaway.
I thought about this one. This one's hard, but I think it just comes back to everything that, as a mom, as a wife, as a professional, authenticity. You are in charge of your own happiness, your own success. If you find yourself in a situation, 10 years in, 2 years in to whatever it is that you're in to, and you're not happy, you got to make a decision, because ultimately the only person that can make that decision is you.
I love it. If people wanted to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Kind of scary, but just call my cell phone, area code 608-219-3535. I don't have a book. I don't have a website. But I am someone that I do like to help people. That's kind of my North Star in life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And hopefully you don't get too many random crazies.
You never know.
We have a lot of crazies that love the hot box.
Yeah, well,
because we're crazy.
I'm going to have to have your help, and don't let Scott. Scott can't call me. Scott cannot call.
For anyone listening, Scott is the producer. And you've seen him on an episode here. It was our 2-year episode, and we all rioted for that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So let's head out now to our shout out.
Hi, I'm Kelly Haggeter. My little peanut and I like to listen to Brandi on the Strategic Hot Box.
Thank you to Kelly and the Peanut for being here and doing a shout out. And thank you to Kelly Hellickson for being here with us on the Hot Box.
Thank you for having me. I have to say this is going to be a highlight for me for a really long time.
All right. Now let's head out now to my favorite time. It's time to kick some ass. Here is your top 5. Number 1, when it comes to redefining success, is to reevaluate your perception of that. Listen to the voice in your head that's telling you to just slow down, to smell the roses, to understand, especially if you're a high-performing leader. If you're somebody out there that is trying to maximize success, that has a tough time asking for help, that is really thinks that they need to be the best part of their game in all aspects of their life, take a break, give yourself a break, and reevaluate your perception of what success really is. Number 2 is don't forget that health is also wealth, that your own health and survival and wellness is so important to your definition and your growth and your abilities and passions. And that can be just as powerful as collecting money. That if you make a bunch of money, but end up with heart disease early on, I mean, that's not good either, right? So give yourself, breathe the oxygen, feel the sunshine. Health is just as powerful as wealth. And number 3 is define your failures also in the relationship that they have with your success. That learn from things as we go, understand where you might have some weaknesses or things where you can let things live in mediocrity and be comfortable in that being an intentional decision to do so, and have that be part of your journey to success. Number 4, authenticity. It was our takeaway from Kelly today. Be authentic and be grateful in all the things that you have achieved so far. And number 5 is my favorite. Live for love. Not necessarily for likes. And likes, for those that are listening, I put up some air quotes. Live for love and not for likes. And whether that's a social media standpoint, that's what other people think you should be achieving, whether that was a standard that your parents, your bosses, or your kids have set for you. This is about what you choosing love, you choosing your passion, and what success really means in your heart. That's your top 5 kick-ass. We'd love to hear from you on topics that you'd like us to cover in the Strategic Hot Box. We're always tackling different topics with different subject matter experts. We'll find an expert in whatever challenges that you might be having and share those with us on the Strategic Hot Box website. That's strategichotbox.com. Or, of course, on social media platforms are easy as well. Twitter, Instagram, at Brandi Love, BRANDILUV, or at Strategic Hot Box. And just let us know. You can also throw an email out to podcast@strategichotbox.com and tell us the kinds of things that you would like to see, or if there's something out there that you want to build on or continue to dive into. And then Kelly, of course, gave us her information. If you ever wanted to reach out to her, she's happy to help as well. So for any ongoing access to things that you might need out there, we've got a leadership detox on the website that really can be a jump start. So if you are wanting something to shake things up in your life, to get things going, that detox is a great place to do that. And you can also kind of sign up to stay involved in the things that we have going, and it becomes a jump start really for what you have going in your leadership journey. And we want to give you as many tools as possible, because one of my passions in life is really, my purpose on the planet is to energize results and to allow people to be the best that they can possibly be. And that is what success, although also elusive, that's what success means to me, is having people feel empowered and loved and choosing love and choosing themselves in that process. So thank you again to Kelly for being here with us. Thank you to our other Kelly and the Peanut for Harley, and Peanut has now been born. So thank you to Harley. Shout out to Harley for being part of the podcast as well. Until I see you again, get out there and kick some ass.